So does it feel like 2023 to you? Does it feel like January 2023 to you, or does it feel like we're already halfway through the year? Everyone I've bumped in today has said, Tom, can't believe it's the beginning of the year. It feels like we're already into it. And I think the energy levels in South Africa are a little bit low, literally and figuratively speaking. Well, we're going to discuss all of this tonight. We're going to discuss South Africa and its problems as we usually do, but we're going to look around for solutions, and we're going to take your comments and put them up on screen. You've got a chance to chat to Wayne Duvenage and the OUTA team of consultants and experts that will be on your screen for the next 60 minutes. I'm Tom London. Welcome to the show. First up tonight, we're going to take a look at e-tolls and find out if they're really dead. What needs to be done before we never have to use the word e-tolls again? And then we're going to dig into the deep end of South Africa's problems, quite possibly the biggest challenge this country faces, and that is lack of energy, lack of electricity, a broken Eskom, cyanide in coffee cups. You name it, it all goes down in Mzansi, including tigers on the loose from time to time. What a crazy situation, and what an interesting place to live. Wayne Duvenage. It's been a month or so, and we're back. Hi, Wayne.
How's it, Tom? How's it to all our supporters and people joining in? It has been an incredible start to the year. I must say the energy levels are high, but the frenzy and the nonsense that we see flashing across our social media screens, just this disinformation and crazy ideas, and we've got to... I think we've got to learn how to keep calm, keep cool heads in a time where, understandably, we are frustrated. There are reasons to be angry, but you don't resolve problems and big issues in a mindset of anger. So we've got a lot to do as civil society leading up to some big political change in the next year. But until then, some nice discussions to have, and there's good stuff that's happening in civil activism. So looking forward to tonight's session with a great bunch of people.
Amen to that, Wayne. And I don't want to lose that point you've made about how we need to attack our problems in South Africa. I mean, it was just, I think it was yesterday I put a post on my own Facebook page, and I said, Joburg, best weather in the world. And then every comment underneath was, yeah, but we're living in the Stone Age and there's no electricity and the potholes in the roads. I know all of that. I was just saying the weather's nice today. But it kind of gives you an idea of where South Africa is mentally and psychologically, where we are as South Africans. We're really battling to get through each day. And small businesses are crying. Things are crumbling around us. How do we tackle, before we get into e-tolls and before we get into Eskom, generally speaking, Wayne Duvenage, you've been a light on the horizon, a beacon of hope for millions of South Africans. Tell us, how do we stay, is the word positive, or what kind of attitude do we need in 2023 to start dealing with these problems once and for all?
Look, it's not a once and for all thing, Tom. This is an ongoing thing. And, you know, there is a lot of good. There's a lot of good people in government, in Eskom, in the police, everywhere. It's the few people that make it bad for us. It's the political meddling that makes it, that makes the problems that we have today. And there's a lot of good stuff. And I'm glad you talk about the few good things that are out there. And they're quite a lot when you start looking. And I speak to people who are coming back despite the challenges here, because it's not green and rosy around the world. And we have the amazing weather. We have the amazing diversity, the fauna and flora, the coastlines, even though some of it has got a bit of turd in it, but we've got so much going for us. So when you have an unlocked potential and the prosperity that's there, our job is to unlock that potential and that prosperity. And if we keep working together, the research shows, Tom, we are more united than divided, as some of the politicians would like us to be.
I believe that.
Yeah, we've got to stop listening to the populists and the populist narrative. And we're going to start putting, and I want to come right back to the simple solution is you've got to start holding the people in power to account. And the frustration that we have at OUTA is that there's so many business organizations and associations out there that are not doing enough to hold the city council to account in Durban for the sewage pouring into the rivers and onto the beaches that is decimating the tourism industry. FedHaus is missing in action, Tourism Business Council, and those industry bodies have a bigger role to play than what they are. They've got to let go of their fear, and they've got to get on top of the job of holding government to account. That's our expertise. That's our forte. So we're engaging with these entities to say, don't worry about the bullying. This is how you challenge it. So look, there are solutions. We have to fix local government, and there's a lot of work to do. But you've got two choices. You get involved and you do it. And if you want to know how to get involved at a local level, find out who your local resident associations are. Ask them what they're doing about holding local government to account. Start talking to the businesses, your bosses. What business industry do we belong to? Why are they not doing their stuff? The business chambers. You ask them the tough questions. Put the pressure on from the bottom up, and we'll start getting there. So, let's not drown in the negativity. We have reasons to be frustrated. We've got a lot to fix. But if we just wallow in this, woe are we, doomed are we, well, then doomed we will be. So if it's up to me, if it has to be, it's up to me. That's what we've got to say. If it is to be, it is up to me. What are you doing? And then we will get there. I promise you, every little bit counts. And I'm excited about the future. I really am, because we're coming off a low base and we've got a massive positive trajectory coming. But the road is bumpy.
Yeah, I was sitting outside on the balcony a little earlier on, and the generators came on, and I went, ugh, like we all do. And then I thought, if South Africa was a car, and it was a bit bust, and it was broken, and the engine needed to be reconditioned, someone would still buy it. Someone would still say, yeah, there's value in that thing. I'll take it. I'll fix it. I mean, that's the kind of attitude I think we need. We know we've got a broken car, but the point is how to fix it. Yeah, and we're going to chat about that on the show tonight. I'd just like to welcome you. If you're new to the show, welcome to the OUTA Hour. If you're a regular viewer, welcome back. You're part of the family. Fikile Dada is our chief whip tonight. Well done, Fikile, for getting on board first, and I'll be popping your comments up on screen as they come through. Please like and share the program so more South Africans can get infected with this positive energy to climb in and fix South Africa. Tonight, we will be talking to Chris Yelland, OUTA's energy consultant, Liz McDade, the energy advisor, Brendan Slade, the legal project manager, talking about Eskom, specifically load shedding. We'll kick off the program with Andrea van Heerden, senior legal project manager at OUTA, and Wayne Divenage contributing, and talk about e-tolls, because this e-tolls thing, we hear that it's dead. And then 2 weeks later, somebody stands up and says, we're working on refunds, or we got this going on, or that going on. But we know the thing's dead. But let's get the latest, because there's been a bit that's happened in the last month or so. And let me start with the first and obvious question is, what's the latest regarding e-tolls, Wayne?
So look, in October, end of October, they announced new funding mechanism. We're going to scrap e-tolls in a roundabout way, but very clear. The announcement's made. End of e-tolls is here. They're going to put in place the few changes on the administrative process that has to happen, and by the 31st of December, it's all gone. You will turn off the lights, the purple lights, and lo and behold, 31st of December, we hear no, we're not turning them off. Keep paying if you are paying. The few people that are paying, keep paying. We've still got to gazette this, and we're not sure who owes what. And it just, again, just typical inability to implement a decision. So I mean, we were busy. We were busy with the media when we were supposed to be on holiday. It was madness. Yeah. Anyway, the reality is this, that there's about 10% now. Well, there was 15% before that October decision. Probably about 10% because a few people did stop paying, but there's still companies that are paying. And this is a nightmare for them. I mean, they're trying to turn off, they're trying to send their clients notifications. We're not going to bill you, and fix up their billing systems. So the long and short is that the Premier made an announcement as well. Well, we still got some paperwork to do. Hang in there. If you're paying, just keep paying, which we think anybody who's paying now. Crazy.
Yeah.
We're crazy. So So and then, oh, and by the way, we're going to refund those who have paid. It's about 7 billion rand, 6.9 billion rand. Now, I mean, that's good. That's noble. We mustn't poo-poo that. Lovely stuff. You don't have the money. You don't have to repay them because you weren't billing unlawfully, but now you want to repay them. Now, you've got to start asking yourself, what triggered that? And why did you say that, Premier, not Sanral?
That came out of the blue.
It just came out of the blue. Now the questions are asked. I mean, there are customers that have paid the car rental companies and freight companies these e-toll bills, because the costs are passed on from business, by the way, to customer. For the last 9 years, I can tell you now, the tourists in Germany and Italy, and the people who've paid their e-toll bills to the freight companies 9, 8, 7 years ago, are not going to want those refunds back. And if they do, there's an administrative nightmare waiting for those companies. But guess what this is doing? Long and short of it, Tom, a nice little door for corruption. A nice little door open. There's some government departments that have been paying. Yes, the ANC needs money for the elections. So this, to me, is a corruption trap. And we have to be vigilant now, because this is just nonsensical decisions that are being made. Anyway, we're going to have to watch this space. But long and short is, e-toll's is dead, whether they still got to gazette it or not. The reality is it's dead. If you're paying, please go and see a psychologist. Please, you need help, because you're wasting your money.
There we go. Wayne Duvenage, CEO of OUTA, speaks out on e-tolls. You said there's still a few things that need to be done. Let's ask Andrea van Heerden, Senior Legal Project Manager at OUTA, what needs to happen, legally speaking, before the thing is truly a thing of the e-tolls is truly a thing of the past, Andrea?
Hi, good evening, Tom, and good evening, all the out here. It's great to be back in 2023. To answer your question, Tom, I think it's important to understand that when e-tolls were initially instituted, SANRAL had the right in terms of the SANRAL Act to charge for e-tolls. Although we believe it's unconstitutional, it's never going to work, they did have the legal right to charge these toll fees. And the reason for that is because a declaration was published declaring the GFIP a toll route. So that's the only reason why they had the ability to collect e-tolls. So now what needs to happen? The declaration needs to be retracted, or a new declaration needs to be published, as Wayne mentioned, in the Government Gazette, declaring that the GFIP is no longer a toll route.
So it needs to be gazetted.
So it needs to happen. Yes, it needs to be gazetted. And as far as my understanding is, it needs to be gazetted by SANRAL, because they were the agency who published it in the first place. So even if Premier Lesotho cries wolf, or he cries at the top of his lungs that e-tolls are dead, until SANRAL actually publishes the gazette declaring GFIP non-toll routes, the door is open. So even if they don't act on it now, they don't publish that declaration, the door is open. And they might, in 10 years' time, want to pursue this.
All right, so I guess you're watching to make sure that that door gets closed, finally. What's going to happen to all of these cases? I mean, you've been defending and holding on to cases from OUTA supporters for years now. OUTA supporters and Outarians and donors to OUTA have been for years relying on the legal expertise of the OUTA team to keep anybody from coming and collecting money and stuff like that. What's going to happen to all of those matters that you've been sitting on, or all the cases?
Well, Tom, I think it's important to understand it's two groups that we're talking about. The first group is the individual matters. So OUTA's attorneys of record represented almost 3,000 individual matters. So that's individuals and companies who got summons to pay e-tolls. So that's the one cluster part. Then the second part is the constitutional or the collateral challenge we brought. Now, we were at a quite advanced stage, but as everybody should be aware of, in March 2019, so the SANRAL board gave instructions to say they're not going to pursue this. So everything stopped, everything halted. But in terms of the legal process, the summonses are still issued at court. So the only way to stop whatever going or carrying on is to withdraw the summonses. So that's basically what needs to happen now. Is SANRAL now needs to issue the instructions to their attorneys, instructing them to withdraw all these matters, the individual 3,000 matters.
And you're on top of this, Andrea. You're watching this.
Sorry.
You're watching this. You're on top of it.
Well, absolutely. Unfortunately, we can't apply the pressure we want to apply currently because we don't know what needs to happen. So first of all, the declaration needs to be published. Once that is done, then we can apply pressure on SANRAL to withdraw these individual matters and to tender the costs for that. So that's also very important. And this is just my 2 cents and my personal opinion on the whole refund issue, Tom, is if Premier Lesuphi wants to refund everybody, I'm just saying, don't refund them, just pay OUTA's legal costs. That's quite a pretty penny because we had to defend our supporters with nonsensical scheme. So I think if they really want to do refunds, I think OUTA's going to stand first in queue to get our refund with regards to the legal costs involved.
Yeah, and I think people would support you on that. Andrea van Heerden, thank you for this update. We rely on you on future updates. So once the door finally slams shut, you'll be the one to bring it to us, I guess. Thank you, Andrea, and a good night to you.
Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you, Alterius, and enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you.
Now, let's talk about Eskom and their increase in tariffs. This all ties into load shedding. This ties into poor performance. It ties into corruption. It ties into the resignation of the CEO. And it just looks like a never-ending story. We're going to start by chatting to Brendan Slade. Brendan is a legal project manager at OUTA. And Brendan, how's it? Listen, it's good to have you back on the OUTA Hour. How are things going? I know you're sitting in the dark, kind of. Show us your face, Brendan Slade.
Oh no, it's not stage 6. How are you doing, Tom?
How's it?
Not too bad from this side. I'm glad you guys can see me. Yeah, touch wood. Before we get any form of other dreaded notification on our phone from our most used app on all our smartphones out.
Brendan, you know, we're sitting in the dark most of the time in South Africa, but just darkness surrounds us. Yet, NERSA grants Eskom another tariff increase, 18.65%. So we're not getting the electricity we want, and now we've got to pay more for it. How did this unfold?
Just to go back and to put everything into perspective, we are now in 2023. There were recent reports that South Africa experienced around 200 days worth of load shedding last year. I think the correct number may be 207, around the 200 number. So in September last year, Eskom approached NERSA. NERSA is obviously the energy regulator of South Africa. And they approached NERSA in terms of the multi-year price determination process. That's the MYPD process. So in that application to NERSA, they said, listen, we failed to make appropriate revenue in the previous financial years. We are also now seeking revenue for the years to come. They submitted a lot of rubbish, nonsense information that nobody could make sense of, and then essentially asked for a 32% increase in tariffs that will be applied from the 1st of April next year. So NERSA made the promise. They said, South Africa, you will have a lovely Christmas gift. We will give you an answer on our decision by Christmas. Christmas came, Christmas went by. NERSA then last week, Thursday, they publicized the decision that they are now granting a 18.65% increase, which will be applicable from the 1st of April. So just further to point out to the frustration, we were part of the comment process. Liz McDade, who will also be joining us tonight, she made a wonderful presentation to the attendees at the NERSA hearings. And just for the record, not many organizations actually got wind of this. Not many people and organizations participated in this specifically. And now that the increases are starting to hit home, now we are seeing a lot of political parties, a lot of organizations out there are now taking NERSA or this particular decision and other issues pertaining to Eskom to court. So it's a bit frustrating to see this, everybody using this crisis now, utilizing it for their own benefits when the opportunities were
and
there
after the fact, Brendan, after the fact, I'm looking at other political parties waiting until the increase comes in and then jumping to attention. You've been talking about this and highlighting what's coming for months and months and months and months now. Liz McDade, surely 18.65% being above inflation is too high. What kind of effect does this have? Liz, you're an expert on energy. What kind of effect does an 18.65% increase have on South Africa?
Well, firstly, it stirs up a lot of resentment and anger. Maybe if we could channel that energy, we could probably keep the lights on. But I think what we have to look at is if your bill is about 500 Rand a month, and I know many people are a lot more than that, then it's going to go up to about 590. But you've also got to remember that 18% is only the Eskom part of it, and local municipalities still have to add on. So if you're in a Eskom direct area, you buy direct from Eskom, you'll get 18% from April. But if you're in a municipality, you won't get an increase in April, and you'll think you've escaped, but you haven't, because municipal increases come in from July. So I think the critical impact is that we are paying more, which means the cost of living goes up. So, and as we know, when cost of things go up, they don't come down, even if we were to get a decrease. And but I also want to dig a little bit into some of the things that NERSA the decisions that NERSA made. Because it impacts. So we all know that our diesel peaking power stations are running or sort of overheating on the amount of use, that they are compensating for the fact that the Eskom fleet is unable to work optimally, and we can go into some of the reasons for that. But what NERSA said is, even if we give you all the diesel that you require for, you're still not going to be able to stop load shedding, in essence. And so we're not going to give you all of that. So what that means is that for Eskom is now they don't have enough money to buy extra diesel to run the diesel peakers.
So is load shedding guaranteed? Guaranteed load shedding.
So load shedding, the one thing that Eskom can guarantee is load shedding, and they're quite good at keeping to the scheduling of load shedding.
Exceptionally good at it, yes.
Keeping the lights on. But what NERSA also said was there's a condition with this 18%, which is that the availability of energy, in other words, the amount of time that the power stations are actually operating, and the amount of energy has to increase. So they basically said those are the things that are within Eskom's control. So Eskom, maybe can't control the price of coal, but they can control how many power stations are running at any one time. So, but what this means for us is that we are going to get increasing electricity prices and increasing load shedding, because Eskom is claiming it didn't get enough.
Right, got it.
And so the dilemma is government going to pick up the shortfall? And that takes us to, well, then if government picks up the shortfall, then we maybe get in the budget speech, we get a whole hoo-ha about how government's helping because they're going to pick up that shortfall. But what does that mean? It means schools, hospitals, roads, water services then have to lose money, because there isn't like an ever-expanding pie. There's only so much.
Yeah, we're all becoming deeply familiar with the tragic effects of load shedding on this economy and our lives. I'm just wondering, I'm not sure whether Chris Yelland has joined us yet. I didn't see him pop up earlier. Chris, are you there?
Don't see
I
him.
don't think Chris is up yet. So let me pose this question to you then, Liz. And that is, we know we've become quite accustomed to Eskom getting bailouts. Why didn't government just give Eskom a bailout and not have to? We didn't. So let me put it this way: why didn't government give Eskom the money and enough money that we didn't get this kind of increase?
So that's the big question. But I mean, part of the answer is that means there's less money for other things. But it's also around, do we just throw good money after bad? I think that's also another question. If Eskom does nothing, because what we have at the moment, we've got a leaking bucket.
Yeah.
We throw money in, and it leaks out through the coal mafia, as they call. So a whole lot of. So how do we stop that? So possibly, yes, the economy is really rocketing from the load shedding. So fix the load shedding, which can be done in a much more creative way than just bashing Eskom, which is just like a beaten person who's just lying down waiting to be beaten.
Yeah, to me it looks like a person with stage 4 terminal an organization with stage 4 terminal illness. It's like almost impossible to see how to cut the cancer out of Eskom.
But you were talking, Tom, earlier about cars, and that you have a car and you just patch it and you keep going. Yeah. I think we've done that for so long now that the tires have been stolen, the engine is on its last legs.
The car is well and truly messed. Yeah.
And at some point, you have to say, let's leave it now, use it for scrap. We need to bring in some new machines.
I want to pick up on that. I want to ask Wayne to give some comment on that as well. Before I do, Wayne, I'm just looking at a question from Leonard van der Leitgarden, who says or asks, I heard load shedding is going back to stage 6. Is this true? Are we going to go in and out of different stages over the year? I'll ask you to answer, and then I'll come back to Liz on that one as well. Wayne?
Yeah, look, Tom, we're going to pop in and out of it until they bring online some older units that have undergoing repair. So, as you hear Doretta saying very often, there's no certainty in where they sit. And this is a combination of, bad or old power plants that have undergone maintenance. They have to undergo more maintenance. And when you're trying to keep these power stations together with elastic bands and sellotape, and I say that figuratively, that's what's happening. It depends how quickly and how deep you go into the maintenance. So it takes a few units to push you from 4 to 6 that go down. We believe there are a number of them coming on board. And I think what Liz is saying is this is an old car, but you can restore as much as you can. You're never going to restore anything to new technology. You won't have the Bluetooth and everything in an old 1956 Volvo. But you can fix it that it goes while you bring new on. And the problem is that new hasn't been coming on because government is the problem here of all the delays that they've had. So, we all throwing stones at Eskom. This is a political issue. This is political meddling, bad decisions, no planning, political interference at its best. And until we fix that, until we get civil society representatives on boards, until we get the professionalism back in place, until we bring in the independent power producers and fix the 3 separate sections and bring in the ITSMO decisions and bills that have been tabled, and get the plans done as Green Connection and SAFC have brought a brilliant court case to compel the president to move on some of these things that should have happened so long ago. We'll forever be in this floundering state of flux with Eskom.
Yeah, I call it the meantime. We're in the meantime at the moment. In the meantime, what do we do in the meantime, Wayne? I mean, just looking at comments coming up on the screen, going time to consider solar solutions and generating power at home, and more people doing that. What do you think of that?
Look, that's happening anyway, and sadly, the rich and people who have the money to do that will do it and are doing it. It is the poorest of the poor that cannot do that, that suffer. And so what you can't do, and the small businesses that don't have the budgets for that. And so what we've got to do is take a step back. We can throw stones, we can march. I mean, people are saying they want to march to Eskom. Well, march to the union buildings, please. Yes, Eskom, the issue is not Eskom. The people in Eskom right now are trying to fix a 15-year-old problem of gross neglect and bad mismanagement. So you know, you can change a couple of people at the head, but those people need to get on with the job without any interference. You know, a few years ago, Tom, Andre de Ruyter came in. They've got a massive salary bill with all these above inflation increases, and he needed to cut the heads and stop the increases. And that's what he set out to do, as any businessman would do in a company that's failing. And he was tapped on the shoulder and said, this is not good for elections, not good for votes. You can't do this. That's political meddling. So leadership has to be allowed to get on with the job of fixing institutions and not be told what to do by people in government who know nothing about running a business or an entity.
How do we stop the political meddling?
Well, you're never going to stop that while you have a ruling party whose whole fundamental structure and focus is about political meddling, cadre deployment for gains for the party and interested cronies. That is how they've operated ever since they've taken over. And we're in a new democracy. And if you look at the revenues that national government and local government has earned, it's well above inflation for the last 20 years. The money is there. People say we don't have the money. The money is there. If it's well managed, you can bring everything back on track. It'll take a bit long because the holes are deeper. But, you know, we have the funds. You just need to put in the professionals. So while you have Gwede Mantashe and while you have Fakile Mbalula in transport and all these people that just have no idea of running these important departments that look after the infrastructure of this country, we will continue to have these problems. It has to be a political solution. And in the meantime, we have to put pressure on government. And that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, if only these guys were as good at fixing Eskom as they are at elective conferences. You know, we keep hearing that the president has to fly home. This time, he didn't go to Davos to the yearly meeting. I'll stay at home. And South Africans are becoming quite cynical now. I mean, judging by the reaction on social media and in the media, South Africans just don't buy this thing that the president's flying home to fix the electricity problem. But inside that nonsense is a serious question. How pivotal or important is President Ramaphosa in all of this? Is the president the one that has the power to fix it, or is there more to it than that?
Liz, you answer that.
Okay.
You've been nominated, Liz. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think part of the problem is that the people that are in the positions of looking after government departments are also powerful people within the political party.
Yeah.
And therefore, you know, you're doing two jobs. So I think the first thing is to ensure that your portfolios, which are critical, have political heads whose heads are right in the game. The second thing, and maybe this is like going out on a limb, but it seems that there's personality clashes here. And it feels to me like the president's constantly having to step into the playground and grab two little scrabbling boys and go sit in the corner and work together. So, you know, there's got to be a working together. People can't do this on their own. But what we have to also do is look, the Department of Energy is responsible for energy security in the country, not Eskom. Eskom's only responsible for electricity. And over the last 10, 15 years, the idea has supposed to have been is that Eskom would concentrate on its own fleet, and that a whole range of new electricity generators would come to the party would be brought online, and we would be heading for the stars.
Yeah, but now we're
That's
learning new things, Liz, and I want to drop this into the conversation. I know someone who's been working on a project for years and years and years, one of these IPP projects. Someone I know well, very passionate about generating sustainable energy. Huge business behind this person, and they were in the bidding process, and it went on for years, and teams didn't sleep at night to get these bids in, and then everyone waited to see who gets what, and then the government turned around, or officials turned around and said, oh yeah, you can generate that electricity, but actually we don't have enough capacity on the grid to plug you in. That's something we didn't know a year ago, and now we find out that even if we go and produce a whole lot of wind, for example, where the wind is, there's no grid capacity.
So whose fault is that, and what do we do about it? And this is where, another delaying factor is we had something called the ISBO, which was a piece of legislation brought into Parliament about 2012, I think, which was to restructure Eskom so that we have an independent grid. And we're in making it a state entity, which is now the grid. It's owned by the government. It could then get investment to ensure that it can reach the far-flung corners where it needs to get in order to get all the generation onto the grid. But I believe that what has been happening is, instead of focusing on that, Eskom has really been pouring its resources into this empty bucket of
just
generation.
To keep things going, and then we've forgotten about
going.
Grid capacity. Got it.
And now we get stuck. But let's also think this through. We have a grid that can cope with, say, I think it's about 40,000, 38 to 40,000 megawatts. We don't have that at the moment because half of the coal-fired power stations are not working. So there is space even within Mpumalanga and Northwest, where there is also sunshine and wind, that's a space that you can now feed in. So
I get that, and I accept that, right? But it just makes me go crazy that for years people have been working on projects, really good projects, only to be told at the end of all of their efforts that, oh, by the way, where you want to put that thing, we can't plug it in. And now it's going to be another year, another 2, another 3 to sort out what you're explaining.
So yes, exactly. And so the issue is, this is where that you need those non-silos, because what you need is Treasury, public enterprises, DMRE, to sit around a table and say, this is a piece of grid that we need to focus on. This is how much it's going to cost to get it updated so it's modern and can cope with the load. Now, we start tomorrow, we put out the tender, and we get it done. Instead of what's happened is we have fighting where one minister is accusing another minister of treason or whatever else, and nothing actually happens.
Here's what frustrates me is that the same people who broke it are the people that we have to trust to fix it. And Wayne, when I look at these broken businesses and SOEs, and especially Eskom, I look at it and I think, but that place is just bust. Ask Andre de Ruyter. The guy can't have a cup of coffee in his office. If you go for a meeting with him, you won't drink anything out of a cup. I mean, that's how serious this business is. And I often look at Eskom and think, why are we spending so much time and effort trying to fix this rotten company? Can't we just build another one next door, free of all of the nonsense that we've been exposed to thanks to Eskom? Or is that wishful thinking?
Yeah, it is wishful thinking. You just simply can't. It'll cost you 5-10 times the amount to try and do that. The electricity prices will soar well above 18.5%. You just can't, Tom. You've got to try and fix and maintain while you bring on the independent power producers, bring on the renewables, bring on the various elements that are going to be put, hopefully, when we get eventually the IRP update that speaks to our energy security. What do we need? How much of gas? How much of coal, renewables, hydro, whatever it is. Just let's understand what that is, what's best for the country, and then move down that path. And eventually, Tom, Eskom in its current format, unless it goes into new energy plants, all the power stations apart from Medupi and Kusile will be closed down in the next 10 years. They will be moving along. And Eskom becomes a very small, size of its former glory, and independent power producers start to provide this nation on a competitive basis with its energy needs. That's the long and short of the journey ahead. To get there, we still got to have, we're relying on Eskom. It provides over 90% of our energy, and we've got to fix that in the meantime.
Liz?
And I also...
Yes, of course. Yeah, jump in, Liz.
So I think what all of that conversation unfortunately makes us all feel, oh no, we're reliant, as you said, on the same people. But I think there's also another pressure point, which is that many people are now turning to how they can generate their own electricity.
I was just about to ask you that question. That before you jumped in, I wanted to jump in, and I wanted to ask you that question, actually. I wanted to know, how big a part of the solution is generating our own electricity?
Well, imagine this. We are trying to fix a coal fleet that is under pressure to deliver electricity all the time. Imagine if the coal fleet wasn't needed in the day. Imagine if it only had to run at night when the sun went down.
Yeah.
That would just free up a lot of space to enable those engineers and mechanics to get down there and fix things. So the question now is, and this is where we need to be creative and think out of the box. If we take that and we go, okay, how do we deal with this? Wayne raised earlier that not everybody can afford to put solar on the roof. So the thing that we want to make sure is we don't want people to go off the grid. We want them to be on the grid so that they can feed in, so that we get electrons. We want more and more electricity on the grid. We also can get Treasury to give tax incentives. So small businesses can claim their installations off as a business expense over 2 years or whatever. That's a way to...
So I got it, and I think these are simple and elegant solutions to problems that we face in schools and clinics and homes around South Africa and businesses. But we've had years of this. Nothing much has happened. I don't see much advertising from finance houses, for example. I'm hearing Michael Jordan was posting on Twitter the other day that all the big banks and financial institutions are gearing up to finance your own solar systems. But it's taken such a long time. Do you believe it's going to happen?
There's already companies out there that have a rent to buy kind of
but not on the scale to sort the South African problem out. I mean, these isolated problems. Don't we need a big push from someone? Who does it come from, Wayne? I mean, it just makes sense.
It's happening. As Liz says, these things, it is never a boom situation. It flows into the system as people gear up. And as you can't just switch this thing on suddenly. It happens in a gradual and exponential space. So 3, 4, 5 years from now, it looks very different to what it is today. And 5 years beyond that, again, very different. So it's happening, Tom, as Liz says, it's unfolding right now. Don't worry.
There's a couple of other things that we can do. Sorry, I just want to jump in again. Because my frustration is that if you remember 2008, chaos reigned. I don't know if it was nationwide, but in the Western Cape, we had something like a 19-hour blackout. And what Eskom did was it set up I think it was a task committee, whatever it was. It included civil society and business and government and Eskom. And that war room type thing was not just business and government or government on its own pluck. It included civil society, which represented like residents associations, health, civil advocacy, environmental. And we had brainstorms around the table of what exactly to do. And one thing, and that was where things like Eskom going on TV and saying, turn off your geysers right now, we've got a problem. Where's all that communication?
Yeah, that's something that I think it's a tragedy that this gets lost in the noise, because the other side of electricity production is consumption. And I don't think people are going to like me saying this, but in my opinion, us South Africans have treated electricity like our water for decades and decades. And you speak to anyone in the UK right now, and they'll tell you what electricity costs, and our eyeballs will roll back in our heads. And it leads to consumer consciousness. It starts at home, where you switch the light off if you don't need it, and you watch that geyser, you replace it with gas or solar, etc. And that's got lost in all of this.
And we take it another step. If we paid for a time of use, so Eskom charges municipalities, for example, different rates depending on when they use electricity. But there's big business as well. So if you're using electricity when everybody wants it, and therefore it's a scarce commodity, you're going to pay more.
Yeah.
So you at home can go, well, actually, I know I normally do my cooking at 6 and 7 at night, but actually, guys, you're going to be eating early because the electricity is cheaper then. And those behavior changes reduce the demand. Again, relieves pressure on the grid.
Yeah, I think if Brendan Slade, Liz McDade, Wayne Duvenage, and the people in the comments section right now were all in a boardroom to fix this problem, would get, the beginnings of a fix would start in 24 hours. It seems ridiculous that it takes government and SOEs so long. In fact, the DG in the president's office today, Wayne, was saying that the reason that it takes so long is because of all the bureaucracy and red tape. And I was going, hold on a moment, is this a comedy show? Because the very same people who brought you all the bureaucracy and red tape over the last 2 or 3 decades are now the ones saying, hold on, this rope around our necks is called bureaucracy and red tape that we brought to you.
Yeah, brought to you by the people who are complaining about it. Isn't it ironical? Eh? I'm going to ask Brendan to reflect his thoughts on that question, because it's real and it's sad. We have a ruling party that wants to march on itself. I mean, I remember on the ETOL matter, the ANC was marching to the union buildings to scrap ETOLs, and they endorsed it and they promoted it in the beginning. You have this flip-flop effect from inefficient government. But your thoughts, Brendan?
Yeah, I'm going to upset the apple cart slightly. We are talking about energy, and the first entities and institutions that come to mind, NERSA, Montage, and Eskom. So Eskom has its hands tied at the moment. It can only do so much through policy changes, and if there is the appropriate legislation enacted in order for Eskom to do X, Y, and Z. So Liz mentioned earlier the ISMO bill, the Independent Systems and Market Operator bill, that has been simmering since around 2012. So if we can take the blaming game slightly away from Eskom and Montage, although that's an argument for a complete different day, we need to start holding Parliament to account as well. Because at the end of the day, Parliament's main function is not only to hold the particular executives or people to account within particular departments, but its main function is to legislate. So if Parliament properly legislates the solutions that civil society and the experts out there bring to the table, then we will see South Africa changing almost overnight. It could have changed overnight if those pieces of legislation, those regulatory reforms happened at least 5 years ago. Yeah. Then we would not have this.
Yeah, sometimes I think
so we must now... Yeah.
Go ahead, Brendan.
Sorry, Tom. We must now, as civil society and the public at large, start breathing down the necks of the MPs, because the MPs know what's going on at the moment. They sit in various portfolio committees. They have inside information on what's going on. They need to hold these institutions to account. But as I said earlier, their main function is to legislate. And they are not legislating to address this problem, unfortunately. We need to stand up. We need to make Parliament scared of civil society. We need to get the message across that they are working for us,
Yeah.
and it's not the other way.
Now, sometimes I think it's very convenient and fortunate, good luck maybe, that Parliament is in Cape Town, because if Parliament was in the Sandton CBD, I bet you there would have been a whole lot more pressure on Parliament. I mean, first those guys have got to put a roof on the Parliament and fix what got burned down before we can even say we've got a proper Parliament building in South Africa. I want to talk about coal in just a moment, but while I've got you, Brendan, we get in opposition parties and interest groups saying, oh, they're going to take government to court. Is this going to achieve anything?
This is a very, very tricky question, but I'm going to answer it anyway. It is still noble to take matters like this to court. Legally speaking, it won't make a difference to load shedding at all. It won't necessarily bring the tariffs down. The issue lies with the methodologies and the calculations behind giving the increase in the first place. So NERSA has been slaughtered in the past by Eskom. The court gave judgment in the favor of Eskom that the increases should go ahead, and NERSA should first go back, fix its methodologies, because otherwise Eskom will utilize this processes based on faulty methodologies repeatedly going forward in the future. So short answer, legally reviewing and setting aside may or may not have a short-term effect, but that won't stop future price increases if the methodology and the reasoning and the calculation behind those applications aren't fixed in the first place. Liz, I don't know if you want to come here specifically on the methodology issues. I know that you are super on that point.
Yeah, that sounds very complicated to me. Can you put it in plain English, please, Liz, for a Springs boykie like me to understand?
No, it's always, these things can either be made simple or they can be made complicated, depending what you want to achieve. It's very simple. If you are selling power onto the grid, you must get paid for it. And if you're going to then use some wires that a municipality owns, or say an Eskom transmission company owns, to get to somebody's house, you would then add on a little bit so that you can pay for the maintenance of those wires. The problem is that we don't have a system where we can easily say, this is how much it costs to maintain the wires, and then and split it off from the generation.
Oh boy, so how do you slice the pie? Okay, got it.
But it's not that complicated if you really want to say, okay, guys, put a number on the table, and people have been looking at some of this and say, right, we might be slightly wrong, but it's an emergency. So here's our tariff structure. And now anybody who can meet that tariff, put your power station up, we'll pay you that amount.
We're an ingenious bunch of people in South Africa. If you just told Tom, for example, if you can build power, we'll buy it. I'll be out there building power tomorrow. I get some Chinas with me and some people with money and some buckies and some expertise and go build power. That's what I would do. Just make it easier for us. Let's talk about coal for a second. I mean, coal has been the unsexiest thing forever. Now, all of a sudden in Europe, coal is sexy. We're seeing all of these videos down in Richards Bay of lines of trucks. And in fact, I was in the Komatipoort area just recently, and coming back from Komatipoort, it's hundreds of coal trucks that are taking coal out of South Africa off to Europe. We know what's happened with the demand, the supply in South Africa. We are supplying like crazy. The guys in the coal business are making fortunes right now. Is there any truth to the stuff we've seen on social media where people are saying, oh, Europe's taking all of our coal and that's why we've got load shedding?
So there's two answers. The first answer is that traditionally our power stations ran on what I want to call a lesser quality coal.
Yes.
They were adapted. They can, I just want to call it that. And the European power stations wanted the good stuff. So we have always exported a certain amount. As over the last, I think it's even the last decade, there's been increasing tension between the coal industry that basically suddenly found they could get more money
if they export
for the coal they exported than Eskom was prepared to pay. And there was a whole complicated idea and lots of formulas about, okay, guys, so if you will supply us for a longer time or shorter time, then we'll give you more or less, so that to try and balance this out. And in fact, you'll even remember there was a call to nationalize the coal to supply Eskom at some point to keep the price down. So what we're facing with at the moment, so now, of course, the demand for coal in the West was sliding down because of the climate change. And then along came Russia and Ukraine, and that squabble has resulted in suddenly the Europeans panicking and saying, never mind climate change, we now want more coal, which has put the price up, which has meant that people in South Africa, the coal miners, are going, well, why should we supply Eskom? So that's like one angle of it. The other angle is that the East has some power stations that can use low-grade coal too. And so there's now also a market for our low-grade coal, which again puts pressure on Eskom to pay more. So that's my understanding of where we're sitting. And then there's, of course, the third aspect, which is that not half, but I'm not sure what percentage of the coal that's headed for the Eskom power stations vanishes en route and then trundles off down to the port or into Mozambique or wherever to be exported illegally.
Yeah, it comes back to what Wayne's been saying all along, is that we can talk about this until the cows come home, but unless the politicians get their act in order, then coal will continue to be stolen. Rocks will continue to be put into coal loads, and all of the inefficiencies and corruption that exists will just continue. Wayne, this story of plugging power into the grid and the private sector getting involved and companies producing power and helping out, how viable is that? I mean, how much of a relief could that be?
Well, it could be quite a big relief, especially in the big institutions, mines, and high energy intensive users are going to be able to supply. And you see this in Germany, you see this in many countries where rooftop solar feeds into the grid at times when it's required, and it makes a big difference. So, but we're not there yet. We've got a long way to go to get there. But it is a potential partial solution to the bigger problem. But I think I think you'll see our solutions being dealt with in other ways before that becomes a big enough.
Do you think that the shift we saw in the ruling party over December at the conference, because there was a definite shift, do you think that bodes well for the problems we're talking about?
Of course it bodes well in this sense. Had Zweli Mkhize become the president of the ANC and the president of this country, the door opens to the radical economic transformation, the RET cabal, and we go backwards. So, and he's corrupt. Ramaphosa is the best of a bad bunch, if you got to see it in any other way. But the ANC itself and its whole psyche of how to ruin a country, not manage a country, run it for the party, not the people, is so deeply inbred that the saying that I repeat often, you cannot leave the solution in the hands of the people who created the problem.
Yeah.
And they've created this mess. What will change this country, and it will be difficult, but it will be better than what we have, is in 2024, if we have the coalition governments that we think we can get, but only on one condition. If you stay away from the voting poll because you don't like the parties you see, and this is what's happening with the ANC. There are a lot of ANC people who voted the ANC the last 15 years who've said, I've give up. I'm not voting anymore. But then they don't go and vote because they say there's no party that really resonates with me. The ANC loves it. When that happens, they will win. What we've got to do is get voters to
mix up
get to the polling station and vote for the least bad party. Don't have this attitude of, I don't like everybody, so any of them, so I'm not going to vote. That is pathetic. We've fought hard for this democracy. You need to get out there and vote. And you might not agree with all the parties. Find the one that resonates as closely to what you think is this party can do to fix your country. Whether it's the Action SA, whether it's a DA, whether it's whoever it is, it doesn't matter. Just vote for somebody And the research shows, Tom, the research shows that the higher the voter turnout, and people don't understand this, they think the more people that vote, the higher the ANC. It's the other way around. The higher the turnout, the lower the percentage that the ANC gets. And if we can get the ANC below 45%, even a coalition with the EFF might not bring them to the 50s. And that bodes well for the change we need. Now, coalition politics is messy. Let's not mess up that statement. But it is better because we're learning a lot in local government about that. And if we can fix the long-term agreements between the coalition parties, we can have the change we need. We need big change. You need to get rid of this cadre deployment. You need to get rid of the entrenched corruption within all these departments. It's going to take a while. You don't turn it overnight. But I think we can fix this country if we get that right.
Well, you've just made my new year happy, Wayne, with that last sentence. A minute. Wayne, you've got a minute. I've got two questions for you. One, do we need the car power ships yet?
No.
Okay.
That's the other thing. People want to think, bring in the car power ships. We can't bear this. That is just throwing.
I hear Liz agreeing with you there. Okay, and then the second thing is non-payment of electricity. I see a Nigerian, was it consulate, being cut off, a huge hotel in Sandton being cut off today. Would you like to see more people being disconnected for not paying and more illegal connections being disconnected?
Yes, they have to do that. And they have to, this whole issue of Soweto and these municipalities that aren't paying. They keep writing off the debt and they don't change things and the debt carries on. They say, but we've written it off. Why didn't you pay? You can't just write the debt off. You have to put in place processes, the town hall meetings, the gathering of the communities and say, if we write this off from tomorrow on, if you don't pay, we will cut you off. You've agreed. And then you have the systems in place and the people on the ground, and you cut them off without the politicians saying, well, that's not good for the elections. Please don't cut Soweto off. You have to do this properly, but you've got to engage with the communities and you've got to have a plan going forward. Every time they write the debt off, there's no plan going forward. So we stay in the spiral.
Back to your main...
Cut off everybody who doesn't pay.
Back to your main point on this episode, Wayne. It's high time for politicians, government employees to do their damn jobs. I mean, it's as simple as that, isn't it?
And get out of government if you can't do it. Just get out of government. But if you don't get out of government, we hopefully can remove you soon.
Amen. That's it for the OUTA Hour tonight. On screen now, Brendan Slade, Liz McDade, and Wayne Duvenage bid you a good night. From me, Tom London, to you, thank you for watching. Samantha van Nispen was looking after you in my Facebook feed tonight. If you were looking at Samantha's name popping up, Samantha is the head of marketing and comms for OUTA, and Masejo was handling your comments on Facebook. And that's it. An hour flew by. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, Liz. And thank you, Brendan. Thank you to you watching the program at home. Please remember to like and share this program so we can get this commentary out to as many South Africans as possible. If you haven't liked and shared it, hit those buttons now. Appreciate it if you do. And follow OUTA if you would like more news on how OUTA is combating the problems we've got in South Africa on a daily basis and how to contribute. Go to outa.co.za or OUTA's Facebook page and like the page. Until next week, stay warm, stay hungry, but not too hungry. Hope you got a bit of money in your pocket. Hope your health is good. Hope people are treating you nicely and hope that you come back. It's a date, 7 p.m. next week, Wednesday, hey? Write it down. Put it in your phone. Wednesday, 7 p.m. Tom and the OUTA team. Don't be late. Until then, I miss you already.
Our fight to eradicate corruption, maladministration, unethical leaders, and the abuse of taxpayers' money by those in power continues. It's fresh, it's fearless, and focused. The OUTA Hour, where your voice matters.